大家好，欢迎你回到 CHI 113的频道，我是高老师。今天我们要开始学第5课，对话1。第5课说什么？好的，跟我说，看朋友，看朋友。If you watch this video and do what it asks you to do, then before the next class you should be able to accomplish the following learning objectives. Number 1, you should be able to understand and be able to pronounce using the correct tones all of the assigned vocab words from Lesson 5, Dialogue 1. Number 2, you should be able to read and fully comprehend the first half of the dialogue all on your own. Number 3, you should have a basic understanding of the dialogue's main grammar points, and there are 3 that we'll be focusing on here in this pre-class video. And finally, you should be able to read and write all of the characters for next class's dictation quiz. 准备好了吗？好的，我们开始吧。So let's begin preparing for Lesson 5, Dialogue 1 by first listening to the audio of our new vocab words. And remember, as you hear the speaker pronounce these words, please try your best to mimic their pronunciation out loud.
Lesson 5, Dialogue 1, Vocabulary. 1.
Yeah.
Interjectory particle used to soften a question. 2.
进
To enter. 3.
快
Fast. Quick. Quickly. 4.
进来
To come in. 5.
来
To come. 6.
介绍
To introduce. 7.
一下
Once. A bit. 8.
高兴
Happy. Pleased. 9.
漂亮
Pretty. 10.
坐
To sit. 11.
在
At. In. On. 12.
哪儿
Where. 13.
学校
School.
Please go back now and listen to this audio at least 2 more times, repeating out loud what you hear. Now that we've listened to the audio of our new vocab words, it's time to listen to the audio from the textbook dialogue.
Lesson 5. Dialogue 1. Visiting a friend's home.
谁呀？是我，王鹏，还有李友。请进，请进，快进来。来，我介绍一下，这是我姐姐，高小茵。
小茵你好
你好，认识你很高兴。
认识你们，我也很高兴。
你们家很大，也很漂亮。
是吗？请坐，请坐。
小茵，你在哪儿工作？
我在学校工作。
Please go back and listen to this audio at least 2 to 3 more times, making sure you can fully understand what all the speakers are saying. Let's begin reviewing those new vocab words from Lesson 5, Dialogue 1. And one of the best methods to use to review and remember new vocab words are flashcards. So to begin using Quizlet's free flashcards, just scan the QR code on your screen here or click on the link below in the description section of the video. Now let's move on to look at the first grammar point that we'll focus on in the next class session. And the first grammar point you can see here on your screen with the orange arrow is 高文中. He says 一下. So in the sentence here he says 请进,请进,快进来,来,我介绍一下,这是我姐姐高小燕. So let's look at this 一下 here in this sentence, which is used to moderate your tone of voice. It can soften the tone of a statement, making it more polite. The first usage that you see on the top of your screen here is just as I've said. When you use 一下 after a verb, it will soften the tone of an expression, making it more polite. So let's look at how we may use this in our everyday discourse. If you came into my office, I may say to you, 请坐一下,请坐一下, right? Please sit. Another common usage of 一下 is after a verb, it can indicate the quickness or shortness of this action. So, in this example that you can see here on your screen, the sentence reads, 你看一下,这是谁的电影? And here, it's just telling you not only politely to look at this, but also just look at it real briefly and tell me whose movie this is. Let's look at another example. 中文怎么说? Please take a look. 中文怎么说? You would say, 请看一下,请看一下, right? Please look. And maybe it means for shortness of time, but it can also express this more polite form of softening the tone. Let's get a little more practice here. These are the verbs we've studied so far. Let's look at the first one. Here we would say, 看一下. And again, it's a short duration of time, and it also softens the expression. Number 2, we could say, 听一下. Number 3, we could say, 说一下. And number 4, we could say, 做一下. Let's practice using 一下. Please translate the following sentences, and I'll do the first one with you here. 中文怎么说? Let me introduce you. We could say, 我介绍一下. And then whoever you're introducing the person to would follow. But notice here how 一下 always follows the verb. You try doing number 2. 中文怎么说? We could say, 我看一下. 这是王鹏的照片. Right? Let me take a look. 我看一下. 这是王鹏的照片. So maybe your friend's holding this picture, and you're simply asking them to look at it briefly but also politely. This is where 一下 comes in very handy. Let's try number 3. So maybe this is a request your friend is making of you. They're saying, hey, listen, whose song is this? You could say, 你听一下,这是谁的歌? 你听一下,这是谁的歌? Right? Listen, just a bit here. Whose song is this? So it indicates shortness of the duration of the action, but it also softens the tone, making it much more polite. Let's look at the final grammar point that we'll focus on here. And this grammar point is described in your textbook as adjectives as predicates using 很. So in the dialogue, it appears at the bottom of your screen. Leo, she says, 你们家很大,也很漂亮. So let's look a bit closer at this grammar point. And predicates, in case you're unfamiliar with this term, predicates are the part of a sentence or clause containing a verb and stating something about the subject. So an adjective in Chinese can be used as a full predicate all by itself without the help of a verb. So in fact, as this slide states here, it would be grammatically incorrect to put such a verb in this type of sentence. So adjectives in Chinese, you can really think of them as stative verbs. They already contain this verb. Let's practice. 我们的学校漂亮吗？我们的学校漂亮吗？ And if you wanted to say our school is beautiful, you would say 我们的学校很漂亮. You would add the 很 in front of the adjective 漂亮. And since the 很 is used so often in front of adjectives, it doesn't necessarily mean very. You can simply translate this sentence as our school is pretty. 我们的学校大吗？我们的学校大吗？ Here again, you would place the 很 in front of the adjective. 我们的学校很大. Our school is big. 他今天忙吗？他今天忙吗？ And she does look busy, so you would answer 他今天很忙. So this 很 always goes in front of the adjective. 对不对？我今天是不忙。我今天是不忙，对不对？ And I hope you said 不对, because we've already mentioned this. 忙 is an adjective as a predicate, meaning it already has the verb inside of it. So you don't need to include another verb. In fact, if you do, it is incorrect. So if you want to say I'm not busy today, you can simply say 我今天不忙。好，你觉得我们的书贵不贵？你觉得我们的书贵不贵？ If you wanted to say that our textbook, our book is expensive, you could say 我觉得我们的书很贵. So again, this 很 is going in front of the adjective. 好，我们来练习一下。我们来练习一下。Let's practice using adjectives as predicates by inserting 很 into the statements below. And let's look at number 1 together. 我弟弟 blank 高. So here to say my younger brother is tall, you could simply say 我弟弟很高. And notice how there is no verb in here, like 是 added to the sentence. Again, you don't need it. Adjectives are stated verbs in Chinese. They already contain the action of doing something or being. What about number 2? You could say 我妹妹很高兴。我妹妹很高兴. Simply adding the 很 in front of the adjective 高兴。第三呢? What about number 3? 第三呢? We could say 王律师的中文很好。王律师的中文很好. Right? Lawyer Wang's Chinese is good. Let's look now at the last grammar point from the first part of Lesson 5, Dialogue 1. This is how it appears in the text. Wang Peng says, 小英,你在哪儿工作?你在哪儿工作? Xiaoyin says, 我在学校工作。我在学校工作。So here we want to focus on this preposition 在, which means at, in, or on. So the preposition 在 indicates a place where an action happens. And very, very, very important to pay attention to the second bullet point here. So 在 plus the place should be placed before the action, that is before the verb, and after the time word, if there is a time word. Let's look at an example. 小英在哪儿工作?小英在哪儿工作? And we want to say she works at the school. So we would say 小英在学校工作。小英在学校工作. So notice here in this sentence how the place, school, 学校, follows the preposition 在, and after that we have the verb, the action, to work. Let's look at another example. Please reference the image to answer this question. 他们在哪儿看电视？他们在哪儿看电视？我们可以说他们在家看电视。他们在家看电视。对不对？我吃饭在家。我吃饭在家，对不对？ Hopefully you said 不对. In English we say I eat at home, but in Chinese don't forget that 在 and the place has to come before the verb. So we should say 我在家吃饭. That's very important to bear in mind. So now just take a few seconds or so and we'll go through these one by one and let's see if we can correct the following sentences. So each one of these sentences, there is a mistake in them. Let's look at number 1 together. 王老师吃饭在家. And here we see the 在家 at the end of the sentence, which is what we do in English often. Right? Teacher Wang eats at home. However, in Chinese, we should say 王老师在家吃饭. So here we are moving the prepositional phrase 在家 in front of the verb 吃饭. What about number 2? What's wrong with this sentence? 在哪儿里有打球? Hopefully, you notice that the subject isn't in the right spot. The subject needs to be at the beginning of the sentence before the preposition 在. So how should this appear? It should look like this. 李友在哪儿打球? So where does Leo play ball? Would be subject first, 李友, followed by the preposition 在哪儿打球? What about number 3? 这个周末在学校他看外国电影. So here again, hopefully you notice that the subject is in the wrong spot. We have a 在 here, but the subject comes after it. And we know that if we're using 在 plus a place, the subject has to come before it. So we could put the subject here, or we could even, if we wanted to, we could put the subject up front. Both would be okay. So a correct way of stating this sentence would be 这个周末他在学校看外国电影. Let's look at number 4. 他不看书在图书馆. What's wrong here? So in order to negate 在, you're going to want to put 不 in front of it. So what we should be saying here is 他不在图书馆看书. Right? He doesn't read books at the library. And notice once again how the preposition 在 and the place, here the place is library, come before the action, which is to read a book. We covered a lot in this pre-class video, so please do reference your integrated Chinese textbook for additional examples of the 3 grammar points we focused on here. Please see pages 130 to 133 in your textbook. So now that we've listened to the audio several times for the vocab words and dialogue and have a pretty good understanding of the main grammar points, it's time now to practice writing the assigned characters for next class's dictation quiz. And before I show you the animated character strokes, I want to remind you all that you can find grid paper to practice writing characters in Canvas when you click on the Modules tab. And the grid paper can serve as a very, very helpful guideline, ensuring that your characters are uniform in size and aesthetically pleasing. So let's go ahead and look at the 10 vocab words that you'll need to know for next class's dictation quiz. And now that you've listened to the audio of the vocab words several times, you're able to pronounce all the assigned vocab words using correct pronunciation. You're also able to read the dialogue and understand it. And you have a basic understanding of the main grammar points, let's move on now to practice writing the characters that you'll have to write for the next class session's dictation quiz. Number 1, 进, 进, meaning to enter. 快, 快, meaning quickly, fast, or quick. 进来, 进来, meaning to come in. 来, 来, meaning to come. 介绍, 介绍, meaning to introduce. 一下, 一下, meaning once or a bit. Again, don't forget, when this follows a verb, it can soften the tone, and it can also indicate that the action that's going to take place will be very brief. And notice how I'm pronouncing the 一下. It's second tone, right? This is the tone Sandy rule. When 一 is followed by a fourth tone character like it is here, it changes to second tone. 一下. 高兴, 高兴, meaning happy or pleased. And don't forget with that X, as I'm always reminding you, your tongue should be touching the back of your bottom teeth. Otherwise, it's going to sound like an SH. So let's try it again. 高兴. 漂亮, 漂亮, meaning pretty, can also mean beautiful. And finally, there's a lot of vocab words that we have to cover for the next class session. So now it's time for us to start practicing writing these characters. Number 1, 坐, 坐, meaning to sit. 在, 在, it's the preposition meaning at, in, or on. 哪儿, 哪儿, meaning where. 学校, 学校, meaning school. If you enjoy watching Chinese films and videos, you should definitely check out these two websites. The first one you're seeing here at the top of your screen is called 土豆, which literally means potato. But it's an excellent Chinese video sharing website. You'll find all kinds of videos on there, including full movies. The second one on your screen here, in the lower part of the screen, is called Youku, and it's very much like YouTube. In fact, it's oftentimes referred to as the Chinese YouTube. So in order to use either of these websites, all you have to do is scan the QR codes on the screen or click on the links below in the description section of this video. And don't forget, once you're comfortable with the new vocab words, the characters, and the 3 grammar points from this part of Lesson 5, Dialogue 1, please take the practice quiz in Canvas before our next class session. 好的，下次见，拜拜。